Good afternoon, I'm Vashan Brown with the Midday News. A special welcome if you're watching on onespotmedia.com, and we apologize for the late start. The police have launched a probe into allegations that dancehall entertainer Elephant Man made a false declaration to an immigration officer on arrival at the Sangster International Airport on Tuesday night. It's reported that Elephant Man, whose given name is O'Neill Bryan, arrived at the airport from Brussels, Belgium, and was asked to declare countries he had visited. It's alleged that he falsified the information and did not declare all the countries, one of which was Germany. Jamaica has placed a travel ban on that country due to the coronavirus pandemic. The police high command says it will be working with the Ministry of Health and the Immigration Department to determine the appropriate action. In an interview with our news center, Elephant Man denied the allegations, adding that the immigration officer did not inquire about his visit to Germany.
I really sincerely apologize to the staff at the Sangsters International Airport and the Minister of Health and the people of Jamaica. I also want to apologize for any misunderstanding in the way I incorrectly completed the form. After my long journey, I actually put the last country I arrived from as the opposed to all the countries I attended in the last 6 weeks. Sorry for that.
No, that's an apology he issued after his denial. He says he's now self-quarantined at home.
Directly home after leaving the airport, and I have not left my house since. I ask for your complete understanding.
And the Passport, Immigration and Citizenship Agency says Elephant Man can be charged with making a false declaration to immigration authorities. The agency's chief executive, Andrew Winter, says the entertainer can be prosecuted under the Public Health Act.
In these circumstances where there's a health component, the provisions of the Public Health and the Quarantine Act would come in full force. And this was elaborated on by the Attorney General in both her press conferences that were held recently. So in this case, because he made a false declaration, based on what we have heard on the voice note, that he did not declare that he was in Germany when it is alleged that he was in Germany, then that would be a false declaration and providing misleading information. And then, based on the Act, Section 22 of the Public Health Act, then certainly he could be prosecuted.
Some COVID-19 containment measures took effect yesterday morning following the announcement by Prime Minister Andrew Holness on Monday. Now, that announcement, non-essential work should be done at home. Well, TVJ News spoke with two groups about how that's been going so far. Here's Herman Green.
Wednesday morning, the policy for non-essential work to be done from home took effect. It applies to all sectors, but halfway tree taxi operator Lloyd Mills explains that the transportation sector felt it immediately.
Just be a car and no passenger. Everybody's scared.
He figures transportation is essential work, but it's pointless with no passengers. Wednesday was nothing new, however. Schools have been out since last week, reducing the number of commuting teachers and students. So while other sectors adjust, teachers say they have been making it work. Carrie-Ann Hall is a prep school teacher in St. Andrew. She says after experimenting with online platforms last week, she found one that works, Google Classroom.
My children and I have been able to have dialogue, reassignments, read what's happening with the virus in Jamaica. We have been able to, the platform has allowed me to send work out to them. They do the work, return to me, I mark, and I'm able to send feedback to them. And so they really are getting the hang of it.
Keita Wilkes-Betty teaches at Pembroke Hall Primary and Marvin Walters at DuPoint Primary. They also say it's been going well, but noted a few challenges. Firstly, some students have been left out as they have not been able to contact them or their parents.
Some of the numbers aren't working, or we're assuming that they're unable to access the internet or data wherever they are. But we are still looking at measures in which we can use to facilitate those parents or students who aren't able to reach as yet.
But there are hurdles even for those who have these facilities.
For some students, internet connection is very poor. So you find that while we're on a WhatsApp call or a Zoom call, they get disconnected. This is a distraction. It disrupts the process.
Despite the issues, they all agree on one thing: the work from home measure is a good idea.
I think it was a swift and decisive action. In fact, this shattered the fear of parents who started panicking like crazy.
I really appreciate that this decision was made to protect us as teachers, to protect our children and their parents.
Well, the government is doing what them can, but right now I feel like when they are saying that 3 persons should be in a car, no 3 persons should be in no car. It should be 1 person in a car and the 1 person just charter a vehicle and go where them going.
Meanwhile, with several Jamaicans working from home due to the COVID-19 coronavirus, President of the Jamaica Confederation of Trade Unions, JCTU, Helene Davis-White, says this might fast-track the law to allow for a flexible work week.
The current laws make it possible for you to work longer than 8 hours per day, I think to a maximum of 12 hours in the day without incurring overtime. And if you do work 12 hours, it means that you would work a shorter number of days, because it still is a maximum 40 hours per day that you are allowed to work without incurring overtime.
As while some employers and employees were against it, the health crisis is forcing them to reconsider.
We have employers now who are implementing working hours, which will have their employees coming in earlier than usual or later than usual, so that there's less possibility of them actually having to travel, how we travel on public transportation. And so this period is allowing employers and workers to recognize that this is something that can actually work and work for mutual benefit as well.
Take a break on the midday news, but we'll be right back. Please stay with us. Welcome back. Continuing the news now. Taxi operators in Maypen, Clarendon say they're feeling the economic pinch from the orders to carry 1 less passenger. They have also suggested a solution to the government for the issue faced by nurses using public transportation. More in this report from Dwayne Anderson.
Earlier this week, Prime Minister Andrew Holness ordered a range of social distancing measures intended to prevent the spread of COVID-19 among the population. But just days later, the initiative is already taking a toll on some taxi operators in Maypen, Clarendon.
The 1 less rule came in after the school were closed. So the taximen, they have been experienced more than 1 less, maybe 2 or 3 less. It took a toll. It took a toll on our income right away. And basically, the 1 less rule became into being impromptu. So people are earning less. Taxi operators are not getting a proper load.
But the operators say they understand these are tough times for the country, so they will try to pay their bills with whatever little they continue to earn. This taxi group leader in Maypen said he does not discriminate, but he accepted the criticism leveled at some taxi operators about them stigmatizing communities with suspected and confirmed cases of COVID-19, as well as nurses and other hospital workers. He said those operators were wrong and called on the drivers doing so to stop immediately. For him, an easy fix is available to the Ministry of Health in some instances where discrimination arises.
The Ministry of Health should, or the CEOs of the hospital should think about implementing a policy where the nurses don't attire themselves in their uniforms on the street. Not because of the corona incident, no. But I think it is better if they would wear civilian clothes to work and then they change in the working clothes. And after completion of their duty, they return to the civilian clothes or garments and travel to and from. So that we can alleviate the fear of the stigmatizing that can be experienced.
Dwayne Anderson, TVJ News.
Trinidad and Tobago has recorded more cases of COVID-19, pushing the number to 9. The government says all the cases are imported. It's reported that 2 cases who are nationals were from a cruise ship. The ship, which was carrying 68 nationals, left from Guadeloupe. The media are reporting that 2 women on the ship tested positive for the virus while on the way back to Trinidad and Tobago. The group was preceded by the 2 women who returned home on Tuesday night and were immediately taken to one of the quarantine facilities at local hospitals. Speaking on TVJ's Smile Jamaica this morning, CNC3's deputy head of news said rest of the nationals aboard the ship are under observation.
Refused entry into Martinique. Those 68 persons have been taken into a special camp in Balandro, which is one of the coastal areas, and they are all being kept in isolation and away from the general public, and all being monitored.
2 additional confirmed cases were reported yesterday and were immediately taken to quarantine hospitals. It's understood that the persons arrived at the Piarco International Airport. Another 18 nationals who returned from the UK on Virgin Atlantic flight that landed in Tobago yesterday afternoon have also been quarantined in Tobago and Trinidad for the 14-day period. Effective this morning, the RJR Gleaner Communications Group started to provide live and pre-recorded interactive teaching sessions for high school students in Jamaica. The initiative is a partnership between the Ministry of Education and the RJR Gleaner brands. The content is accessible across all the group's media platforms, including Television Jamaica TVJ, the Gleaners Youth Link, Music 99 FM, JamaicaGleaner.com, TelevisionJamaica.com, Television Jamaica YouTube page, Jamaica News Network, JNN, and One Spot Media. Now, under the partnership, ministry-approved teachers will deliver live mathematics, information technology, physics, and literature classes at the CSEC level, while live classes will be held in Caribbean studies, physics, sociology, and economics at the Cape level. The lessons run from 9 a.m. to noon and will continue for 7 days. TVJ will air 2.5 hours of live teaching and half-hour of pre-recorded sessions. The live teaching will facilitate an interactive engagement with students using social media that will be simulcast across platforms. Jamaica News Network, JNN, will carry the daily sessions delayed. Highlights of the week's teaching modules will also be repeated on TVJ on weekends. Time now for sports. Cricket West Indies CEO Johnny Grave says it is unlikely the Caribbean would be able to host England for a 3-test series in June. ESPN reported on Wednesday that both Cricket West Indies and the England and Wales Cricket Board have had several meetings to try to find a solution for their upcoming series, which is set to take place in the UK starting June 4. However, in a story from BBC Sports this morning, Grave has been quoted as saying, "I have not had any discussions with England over whether we can host. It would be strange that England can't have cricket, but the Caribbean can," end quote. Grave, who labelled the proposal unrealistic, did, however, suggest that the West Indies are being as flexible as possible to get the series played. The options under consideration reportedly include the possibility of rescheduling the series in September. The West Indies also have obligations later in the year, as they're scheduled to host New Zealand in 3 ODIs and 3 T20s between July 8 and July 19, before South Africa arrive for 2 tests and 5 T20s between July 23 and August 16. And that's the Midday News. I'm Vashon Brown. Join us at 7 for a primetime news package. On behalf of the news, sports, and production teams, have a wonderful afternoon.